It is Sunday, the 23rd of October, 2016. I'm in front of the Lakeshore Unitarian Universalist congregation, protesting against, well, primarily Unitarian Universalist misuse of blasphemy law to cover up and hide such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. There are actually quite a few other issues that I do protest. But today the emphasis is on the misuse of blasphemy law by the Unitarian Universalist Association in legal bullying that's intended to cover up and hide pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. So besides the picket signs you just saw there that I have lying down just inside the sidewalk, I also have a picket sign saying Unitarian Universalist misuse blasphemy law to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape, which I have in my hands. Two picket signs that make up that phrase, and people are starting to exit the service that was held today, and the service is not an ordinary service of the Lakeshore Unitarian Universalist congregation. It's in fact the Eastern gathering of the Canadian, the gathering of the Eastern region of the Canadian Unitarian Council here today. So there are Unitarian Universalists, Canadian Unitarians from Ontario and Quebec. I'm not sure about other provinces. I'm not sure about specifically the maritime provinces. I have not seen any New Brunswick or Nova Scotia license plates. Then again, you know, people coming from Nova Scotia and New Brunswick might just fly in and rent a car kind of thing, you know, might not drive all the way to Montreal for a gathering. Car, I was looking at my picket signs there. Anyhow, I'm expecting people to exit. I mean, who knows, maybe they'll go out the back door to avoid seeing the signs or something. I wouldn't be surprised if some would do that. But I'm expecting a certain number of people to exit from the front door, and a certain number already have. Had a pretty good conversation. Oh, here comes somebody. Young woman. That's it, don't look at the picket signs. Pretend they're not there. Yes, the Unitarian Universalists are very, very good at not seeing my picket signs, even though they're 2 feet by... Oh, she looked back, look at that. She did look back briefly. But yeah, not long enough to do a proper reading of what is on the picket signs. Okay, got someone else coming out here.
She might have texted me. Let's see if she did. Oh yeah, she did.
So, got a guy coming out with a young daughter, no doubt. Doing a good job of not seeing the signs either. His daughter's doing a better job of looking at signs, but she probably doesn't understand what they say. And might be just as well for her, because they really do not reflect well on the Unitarian Universalist religious community, which unfortunately has falsely accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel for blogging about such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by certain Unitarian Universalist ministers. Say nothing of certain Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers and ordinary Unitarian Universalist lay people. So yes, I'm protesting that specifically today. There are other Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy that are worthy of some protest. There's other perversion of justice, besides misusing blasphemy law to cover up and hide pedophilia and rape. But this is quite egregious. And, okay, what's the young lady up to here? It's kind of interesting. Good day, sir.
Good afternoon.
It's always a good afternoon when I'm accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. It doesn't get better than that. It's a unique honor and privilege. So that's pretty much my standard response these days when Unitarian Universalist says have a good day, have a good afternoon, whatever, you know. I say, oh, it's always a good afternoon when I'm accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. So another person coming out here. Well, as I just said to the other people, it's always a nice week when I'm accused of blasphemy by Unitarians. It's truly a unique honor and privilege. Well, at least he's looking at the signs. But yeah, have a nice week, you know. This is basically... I'm just talking to my camera here. But, you know, to me, you know, when a Unitarian sees my protest and says, have a nice day, have a nice week, I consider it to be dismissive. Consider it to be, you know, oh, I'm the nice Unitarian, you know, be nice, but basically ignore the protest, don't do anything to address the issues and so on. So,
my apologies.
What?
My apologies.
Well, you know what? I will accept your apologies because I actually have a policy of accepting apologies that are unsolicited. But yeah, and I don't think you meant to be offensive or anything. But when you see a protest about a serious issue, and the best you can say is have a nice day, it really doesn't come across well to the protester. So just
mostly because like I'm not really.
Yeah, you're not familiar, but see the whole. Yeah, well, you said you're not educated about, but the whole point is you didn't want to be educated. The whole point is like have a nice day, see you later. You know. Now you're talking to me, and so I'll tell you what the issues are. The Unitarian Universalist Association in Boston,
Okay.
which is basically the head office of Unitarian Universalism in the United States, and I would even say to some extent Canada, because the ministers in Canada are American ministers and they're governed by the UUA. The UUA hired a Montreal lawyer,
Okay.
actually a major Canadian law firm, to accuse me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel. We actually have a blasphemy law in the criminal code, because they wanted to intimidate me into removing blog posts about clergy sexual abuse, specifically pedophilia and rape. I had in fact blogged about pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers. One of my protests is against Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct, even though I'm not a victim of it myself. And so they threatened to have me charged with this crime, which carries a 2-year jail term, if I did not take down the blog posts. So this is censorship, and it's misuse of the criminal code, because the blog posts that I made were not false. You know, the UUA accused me of making false accusations, and in fact I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth based on newspaper reports and so on. So essentially what it comes down to is I'm being falsely accused of a crime, specifically blasphemous libel, by the Unitarian Universalist Association. This violates pretty much every principle of Unitarian Universalism, but on top of that, it totally betrays a strong tradition with Unitarian Universalism, which is opposing blasphemy laws. The Unitarian Universalist Association actually lobbies against blasphemy laws in the United States, but they're very hypocritically accusing me of breaking Canada's blasphemy law. So that's the main issue I'm protesting today. There's other things. But the way I see it is that any person who's a Canadian Unitarian should be concerned about this, and they should do something about it. And when I was accused, I said to the UUA, you're going to do three things. You're going to withdraw that accusation. You're going to formally withdraw it. You're going to, take it back in writing. Like you're going to apologize, not just to me, because as far as I'm concerned, what they did basically betrays Unitarian Universalists, because it's just violates what Unitarian Universalists believe in. So it's basically not just offensive to me, it should be offensive to every Unitarian Universalist. And the third thing I said you're going to do is you're going to tell the truth about just how many people have been accused and charged and convicted of pedophilia and rape. Because I spoke about a few cases, I did not speak about all of them. And they're trying to hide this. And I think Canadian Unitarians should do the same thing. I think Canadian Unitarians should say, why are you misusing our Canadian blasphemy law to try and hide clergy sex abuse of the worst kind? So that's my spiel, you've heard it. And I would ask you, are you a member of a specific church, or?
I just joined this one recently.
Oh, you just joined this? So I might see you again. I've actually attended some services here. Okay, so what I would ask you to do, as a Canadian Unitarian, as a member of the Lakeshore Unitarian Universalist congregation, is to say to the other members of your congregation, well, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about the fact, what I just told you? And what I think you should do is exactly the same thing I'm doing, is write to the UUA, the president, Peter Morales, the moderator, Jim Key, and demand an explanation. Just say, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So explain this to us. Tell them, why are you accusing Rob and Edgar of blasphemous libel? And why haven't you withdrawn that accusation? And, what do you intend to do about this, Or you could take it a step further and say, yeah, we agree with Robin, and we agree you should withdraw this, and we agree you should apologize. Basically just raise a little bit of hell with the UUA.
Well, one thing I could do is I could maybe arrange a meeting with you and maybe one of the head ministers here.
Do you have a minister?
Or there's someone who kind of is in charge of the services and helps.
Right. Yeah. Not the actual minister. Well, if you want to try that. But one thing I've considered doing is setting up a petition that people could sign, Ideally, I think it'd be better if Unitarian Universalists made that petition. In other words, I think it'd be better in terms of putting some real pressure on the UUA if the petition came from Canadian Unitarian Universalists rather than me. So that's a possibility. But your name is?
Emil.
Emil, I'm Robin. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And again, I accept your apology for what I perceived as a dismissiveness. As I said, and you're clearly not, you stood here now for 10 minutes or something. Listen, so that's a good thing. And I'll let you go on your way. But yeah, if you could raise the issue, and I would actually, your suggestion's a good one, but I think, and you can research this, by the way. I mean, there's lots of information on the internet. Just search Unitarians blasphemous libel. I have a Twitter account, I have a blog, and so on. So you can check the facts and everything. And I really do believe that what Canadian Unitarians should be doing is, as I said, certainly demanding an explanation, but beyond that, because it clearly is false, because it clearly is a violation of the principles, to accede to my demands, withdraw the accusation, apologize for it, tell the truth, and try and set things right.
One thing is, I'm not sure whether they'd want to believe anything if I were to say anything, because I'm only 17. So.
Oh, really? You look older than that. I thought you were 20 something, but that's the whole point. Is that what you're just saying. One thing I've noticed is a huge amount of psychological denial, a huge amount of willful ignorance, and that is a barrier. But you know what? If they were truly Unitarian Universalists who truly believed in their principles, they would listen to you. So on that note, have a good day, have a good weekend, and good talking to you. So we just had a nice chat with a young fellow who just came out. I'm glad to see we got it all recorded. So he came out, he saw the picket signs, you know, he did the, you know, have a nice day thing. I think he said have a nice week. And yes, you know, as a protester, when a Unitarian Universalist sees my picket signs and, you know, tries to be nice by saying have a good day or have a good week or whatever, but makes no effort to find out what the protest is about, they're essentially being dismissive. They're essentially disregarding and violating the principles and purposes of Unitarian Universalism. Certainly the fourth principle, which calls for a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And in the case of this being a justice issue, they're essentially disregarding and violating the second principle, which calls for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. And, you know, basically there's a few other principles that they're violating, but those are the two main ones. And, you know, so I raised that issue with the fellow, and we ended up having a pretty good conversation. And so he actually did live up to the fourth principle of Unitarian Universalism, which is a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. He heard what I had to say, he listened to it, and even made a suggestion or two about what he could potentially do in terms of responding to the protest. So, you know, so far he's in my good books. He made a little glitch at the beginning, but he corrected it. And, you know, that's the thing with Unitarians is, you know, how they're really bad at correcting their glitches. This guy did it, but unfortunately many don't. So, rocks right by, doesn't say a word. Yeah, so gave me a funny little smile. So yeah, that's another kind of dismissive response to the protest. But yeah, getting back to that young fellow, I'm glad how things turned around when I